Hi and welcome to this presentation about Singapore. My name is Jennifer Stenmark and I will guide you through this presentation. Let's kick off with this quote of Nicholas Berggren, which says, Singapore has been incredibly well managed. It was created out of a swamp with a strong emotional idea. A safe place for mostly Chinese, but accepting other cultures and races. That is a great description of this country. A business hub with a strong Asian culture with international influences. The perfect place to start up your business in Asia. So why should I go to Singapore with my business? Because of its business-friendly policies, strategic location, superb connectivity, conducive business environment, highly developed infrastructure, economic and political stability, and simple and investor-friendly tax regime. So let's move on to the actual business context. The Singaporeans are very ambitious, highly educated, and want to do well. As people earn quite well there, there's also a high purchasing power within the country. The people dislike blue-collar jobs and prefer office jobs. The political risk is very low. It's the lowest in the continent according to PERC. The government believes in proactiveness and long-term prioritizations. The cultural profile of the country is a mix of unique ethnic groups such as Malays, Chinese, Indians, but also home to many expats, as it's seen as a very safe and prosperous country. The country is very small geographically compared to other countries, but it also has a quite large population of 5.5 million people. This means that there are over 8,000 people per square kilometer living in Singapore. Despite its small surface, it's the 39th largest economy in the world according to the World Bank. The GDP is 350 billion USD, or around 60,000 per capita. In 2020, the GDP was negative due to the pandemic. The GDP growth, of course, was negative. Despite that, it still has a very low unemployment rate of 3.6%, which is related to the way the country is managed by the government. Also, the inflation rate remained on a perfect level of approximately 2%. The dominant services in the country are financial services, but all other important industries are also energy and infrastructure, manufacturing of advanced technology, chemicals, logistics, transport and engineering, also tourism and medical tourism, which means that foreigners travel to Singapore to get medical healthcare and treatments, are important industries. Information and communication technologies as well. Even though 21% of the industry's percentage of GDP in Singapore is manufacturing, the rest is mainly service sectors. And in Singapore, farming is not an important activity, as it's a small country with not so much fields, so they import a lot of food from neighboring countries. Here we see an export and import in the USD of the country, and it has mostly more exports and imports, very dependent on export and imports in general. So the pros with this country are that it is a first safe gateway to Asia and ASEAN. A country with low risk, then also second, it has a growing consumer base and high quality of life, which indicates a higher demand for technology and premium products. But some threats are that it's a highly advanced economy with a very small country size, which means that the country also is very dependent on exports and imports. So crises in the world can hit it very hard. Another con in this aspect is that it's very vulnerable to structural slowdown of China, as well as US-China political tensions. It is very easy to start a business in Singapore, just 2 steps, and it takes normally 1 to 1.5 days. This is if the name that you want for your business is available, you don't have to seek approval of it. If you have to do that, it could take more days, up to 3 weeks. First, you have to sign up for ACRA, which is a website, and this takes less than a day. The only thing you have to do is sign an online form. If you have employees in your company, you also have to take a second step and register them at an insurance company for employer compensation insurance. So when dealing with construction permits, it's much more complicated than registering your company in Singapore, because there are 9 steps. For example, you have to hire a qualified professional, as you have to do the soil test, and also many procedures related to water and soil safety. And then you have to seek approval from the Singaporean Land Authority. The credit system in Singapore is defined by credits provided by banks and non-banking institutions to private or legal persons. According to Doing Business, the Getting credit score is not as high as in other scores of Singapore. It is not as easy to to achieve credit information or getting credit here. So many decide to invest with foreign money. If we move on to the Hofstede dimension, we can see that Singapore is much more centralized, and therefore hierarchy is more important than in Spain. You need to know who is the boss in the company, and everyone respect hierarchy more. At the same time, it's a more individualistic country than Spain, so you think more about individual than the collectivistic group. And this is interesting as Singapore is an Asian country and most Asian countries are very collectivistic. But here this depends on that it has a very special culture. And it's a mix of many ethnic groups. So in Singapore, masculinity is slightly higher than in Spain, but they are mostly on the same level. So it's a balance between achieving goals and having a relaxed lifestyle. In Singapore, rules and structure in order to avoid uncertainty is not as important as in Spain. And here also long-term investments are far more important than short-term. People want to see what they can achieve in the long term. And indulgence in Spain and Singapore are in the middle, so they are neither restrained nor open. Here are also some do's and don'ts related to the business culture. It is rather a relationship-oriented country than a task-oriented, despite being more individualistic. So therefore you should take time to really get to know and understand your business partners. People will make business with you if you have good contacts. So the right relationships are key. Appointment must be sent by mail, and best is with a lot of time in advance, like 2 weeks. Always be punctual, dress formally to meetings in advance, obviously. And some don'ts. As in many Asian countries, it's not good to question people and their face. You should be very careful and agree with the people and explain your opinion more softly. Don't question them. Don't attack people with words. Also, you shouldn't be as expressive with words, neither your body language. Stay calm. Singaporeans are not used to hear people say no clearly when you negotiate, so take it slow and say I will see before you just say no. And if we go on to some final recommendations, you should educate yourself well before coming about the culture and the economy and how to start a business there. In order to not wait for more than 1 day when you start a business, pick a business name that is not taken, and also one that is attractive to the Singaporean culture and the people. Finally, it's key to start a business in the right industry in this country. That is in accordance what kind of things that really work here. So you should not start a farming company. Instead, you should maybe start a medical engineering company or something within financial services. This was the end of the presentation, so thank you for listening.